Across the Southern California coastal region, the Southern California Wetlands Recovery Project is undertaking a number of initiatives to facilitate the acquisition and restoration of river, stream, and estuarine wetland habitats. An important and highly visible endeavor of the Wetlands Recovery Project is the Community Wetlands Restoration Grant Program, which provides small grants to nonprofits and local government to implement community-based wetland restoration. This is a view of that program and the positive effect it is having across the region.
One thing we'll see with restorations is you need to have folks that are appropriately trained.
But there isn't really funding for removing invasive species.
And I'll probably start crying, so let's just stop now.
Yeah, cry, come on.
No! No. Oh.
So we well exceeded our goal for the project.
90% of California's, Southern California's wetland resources have been lost.
The Southern California Wetlands Recovery Project is dedicated to acquiring, restoring, and expanding coastal wetlands and watersheds throughout Southern California. Though the vast majority of the region's wetlands have been lost to human activity, key patches remain. Some are exquisite, some are in desperate need of repair.
Early on in the program, though, we established a relationship with the Earth Island Institute. They decided to begin funding the projects on an annual basis. And then I work with them on refining policy, revisiting the program's goals, working on different initiatives that we develop as we move forward with the program. No matter where you live in Southern California, there's been extensive development and there's ongoing development. More concrete, more infrastructure, more freeways, and there's been a high cost of that development. All our wetland resources, or the ones in which we're focused, are here at the coast, and that's where we felt some of the biggest development pressures. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. We've got a power plant just down coast, and what we have left are some small remnants of what historically was a pretty impressive wetland. Again, the contrasts are significant. You see industry, the things that community wants out of sight, out of mind, placed right here in this wetland. And of course, that's a negative feedback. That reinforces the ill treatment of wetlands. If you live over here or you're a young person in this community, you look, oh, this is the throwaway side of town. In some other parts of the region, there's now an understanding that open space is a really precious resource.
My name is Rebecca Schwartz. I'm an intern with the Natural Reserve System. So I work with the Audubon Society and I do research in a lab down at Scripps with the Wetland Project. I think one of the main reasons people come out here to participate is because people generally want to help. Very few people that you talk to are going to say, I want to, destroy the environment. That's nobody's goal. But so many people don't know how they can help. So these types of projects give people a way, an outlet for that desire to help and the desire to make a difference.
So the main stressors here were, in addition to having an altered hydrology, we also have an invasive plant propagule source dispersing downstream into the Ventura River channel and causing all kinds of problems elsewhere. We don't know where this is from. 99.9999% of the reproduction is through fragmentation, mostly during this time of the year. This stuff forms a monoculture, essentially, nothing else. Much lower incidence of rabbits, of insects, of other plants, of everything. So this is sort of an ecological nightmare of a plant. People refer to these types of plants as ecosystem engineers frequently because they engineer the entire environment, not just change a few native species. This stuff is very resilient. If you cut it down, it'll come right back. If you burn it, it'll come right back. So it makes no sense to do hardcore estuarine restoration, hardcore riparian restoration, trying to extirpate New Zealand mud snails, whatever it is, if you don't start up top at the watershed and work our way down.
I'm Isabel Kay. I'm with the University of California's Natural Reserve System, and I'm the manager of the Kendall Frost Mission Bay Marsh. I began this job in 1989, and what I saw when I came over here was an outbreak of the mangroves. We started in earnest to remove the plants themselves once we got funding from Wetlands Recovery Project.
Well, when most people hear mangrove, they think that something to be saved. So when I talk to people about mangrove removal, they're kind of confused for a sec. But the mangroves aren't native to here, and that's the biggest problem. Where they're native to, they're great and they need to be saved. But here they're not native, and what they're doing is there's a bird called a light-footed clapper rail, which traditionally laid its eggs and built its nests in cordgrass. The light-footed clapper rails basically see these as better places to lay their eggs and build their nests. But when the tide comes in, they're taken out to sea and the eggs drown. And because the birds are using the mangroves selectively, they're having a very negative influence, and these birds are very endangered already.
One of the most important reasons to get these guys out here is for them to learn if they don't like doing this kind of stuff. When we talk about the logistical constraints, it's very easy to make a PowerPoint slide, but you don't need to make a PowerPoint slide when you've been out trying to hack through some of this invasive stuff. But they're beginning to pick up the skills that they need if they want to do restoration as a practitioner.
Without that project funding, we wouldn't have been able to undertake the wholesale removal of the plants themselves. It's just very labor intensive. And for us, especially for myself, as managing a relatively small reserve, it's critical. The whole value of this reserve is sort of being lost through the invasion of this plant. And so without this funding, we really couldn't solve the problem, and we would be expecting to come back here in another 10 years to repeat the whole process. And the other critical part is that we're going to be able to educate the public, and now we're going to have not just a handful of eyes looking out at this marsh, we're going to have hundreds. They're also going to understand how wetlands in this area of the country look when they're behaving naturally.
The efforts of the Community Wetland Restoration Grant Program will breathe life into the region's natural ecosystems, and a string of vibrant, graceful wetlands will offer a new perspective on the area's geography and culture. The benefits will extend well beyond the wetland borders.
This initial funding that we got for these vernal pools has kind of helped us to build capacity to get more funding. We've proven success, and we've used that as a stepping off point to go to other granting agencies and get additional funding to do buffer restoration so that the weeds won't continue to invade the vernal pools. We can restore a lot of the area. You restore the process, you restore the hydrology so that those areas can maintain themselves.
We knew that this was one of the situations where it was appropriate to do vernal pool restoration. When you do it where it's going to work, it can work beautifully. This is one of the most spectacular examples I've seen. This is a case in which a homeowners association basically has tackled a project like this, and I'm not aware of that many other places where that's happened.
They've learned what the important habitats are in their area, and they feel more of a sense of stewardship about it.
And I hope we can share that with other homeowners associations so they can think about this kind of process and really taking stewardship of the land right around where they live. So we had a picture of the habitat covered with weeds, and then we shot a whole bunch of this basin as the guy was in here with a bulldozer, the skip loader, clearing out the dirt.
I have some great pictures. Do you do any stills in your video?
Good morning, everyone! Think about it. When you're putting your funds into teaching children about it and doing the work, it's longer lasting than just coming in and fixing an area. That's a one-time shot. That's a one-shot deal. So we're hoping someday to set up a thing where other schools can come do a field trip here at our school and say, this is what this school did. We'll have before, during, after pictures. So that they can get inspired. And then it's like the ripple effect, you know, where you drop a pebble in a pond and it just circles out and circles out and circles out. Well, when you're talking about educating children, it has that effect.
All right, let's go do it.
I think we've had great turnout, a lot of enthusiasm, people are enjoying the day. So the volunteers, they get the work done and they're enjoying it. Well, the school wouldn't be able to do it without outside funding. The school's in the business of educating the students and paying the teachers. And this has been a nice resource to have this here, but as far as spending a significant amount of money, it wouldn't happen we found that once we have some funding from South Coast Wetlands Recovery Project, then it's easier to get additional funding because they know someone already believes in your project.
But when you think about funding a school on education, you're not only getting the job done, but it's going to have a much longer effect. And it's theirs, and they've contributed. And that's always a good feeling in life, you know, to feel that you've contributed. That's a good thing. I think this plant's going to do really well because it's got a lot of growth on it. You did a good job. Yay! High five on that one.
So much becomes possible when a community commits to restoration, to the notion that things can actually get better and that change can be for the good. By supporting the Wetlands Recovery Project and the Community Wetland Restoration Program, you can make a commitment to protecting our region's wetland ecosystems.